perfectly moist. Hello everyone. I'm down here in my pantry with all my non-perishables. And, let's hope we get through 2020. Tee-hee. Whatever. I'm not going to spend a lot of effort on this one. This is the best 3 movies and worst of 2020. Number 3, Birds of Prey. Look, for me, a little Harley goes a long way. So the first 40 minutes of this movie, when she's the only real character in the whole thing, I found pretty unbearable. But as her influence is tempered with other characters, this gets easier to take, even though the ending gets kind of silly. This would be helped if I thought Sionis or I think Zaz is one of the other guy in the thing, if I thought those characters were tolerable, but they're really kind of not. So, like, it's, bad. I liked everything except the good guy and the bad guy, so. And in the department of things that only bother me, in the opening they had this little cartoon where they showed some of the other failed relationships that, Harley tried to have when, she broke up with the Joker. And one of the ones that comes up on this little roulette wheel is, Pamela Isley, of Poison Ivy, who hasn't been in any of the other movies yet. But apparently they tried to do it, and they couldn't make it work. Okay, so here's my problem with that. We've established that this version of Harley is a dipped Harley. It's a Harley that went into the same chemical, that the Joker went through. Not every Harley is a dipped Harley, but this one has been established as that. And not only does that cause her to, go crazy or whatever else has happened to the poor woman, it also means she's immune to all poisons. And that means that the pollen that Poison Ivy often uses to drive men and women crazy and make them fall for her doesn't work on her. Which means if the two of them are together, it's because they really love each other. So the notion that they couldn't make it work is really sad. So instead of 2 brilliant scientific women trying to, navigate this unimaginable world they exist, we just have Harley blowing up ace chemicals and probably deeply increasing the cancer rates for everyone in Gotham. It's like, cool. I hope Batman can put some money into the oncology department to help them with that. I don't know how you can't beat up a tumor, so I don't know what you're gonna do about that. If this was literally a thing for Harley to be like, ha, stop that, Bat Boy, it's like, okay, it's harder for him to punch that, but I don't think that's the point. I think they just want Harley to just be another stupid, destructive goon, the way they turn Batman into a guy who just pops things, and the way they turn the Joker into the person who just, fork to the eyeball, cool, They got that Harley cartoon on now. I've heard that's really good. I don't have HBO Max or whatever the hell that's on, so. Moving on. I kicked the damn tripod. Number 2. Brahms, The Boy 2. Some sequels by their very existence just blow something important out of the water about the first one. I won't say what one, but there is something that was on a worst list somewhere in here, and actually something on a best list too, that the existence of the sequel kind of wrecks something about the original article. So I really appreciated The Boy. It didn't quite make the top 10 that year. I think it was 2015, where it was hard to get on the top 10 list that year. But what they do to the story in this one just completely turns the entire thing upside down and just ruins the first one, because if you watch the first one, it can't really become a series of things, but no horror franchise can ever not be a series. They have to twist it into something else to make it into something that can have sequels. And if this was sort of a twist that would layer things onto the original story, that's fine. But this completely negates the first story, and it just turns it into something that they can milk sequels out of. This really feels like something that they would have been written by completely different people that didn't care about the first one. But no, written and directed by the same people, so which I do not get. Maybe the producers were leaning on them heavily to turn this into a franchise. I mean, these are the same people who turned Orphan, the movie from 2009, 8? When was that? It was a long time ago. Into another movie with a prequel when the girl who played her is now 26. So, but I mean, guess she wanted to come back, so it's like, okay, at least it's a prequel, so you can still have your original movie. Make as many prequels as you want. Do it into her 50s for all I care. If she wants to do it, then fine. Whatever. I never even saw Orphan. I just sort of know what goes down. And obviously, watching the prequel would wreck the twist of that movie, but that's not a big deal when it's a prequel. That's every prequel. So yeah, The Boy 2 sucks, and it's one more bad movie from Katie Holmes. No big shock. Number 1. the rhythm section. Look, on a normal year, this might not make the list at all. But this was definitely the worst movie I saw in 2020. And thank God I got the good part of the year. Like, if you can only see movies in a year and you only see the movies in January, February, and March, that's like, I'm only going to eat the tail of the shrimp. So this movie is about a dimwit who suffers a sympathetic personal tragedy, but after that her life completely dissolves, and she's dragged out of this opium den and whorehouse somewhere to then be trained to be an assassin to get revenge on the terrorists who conducted the attack that killed her parents. It's like, okay. But somehow every step she takes just makes everything worse. There's a part where she sort of approaches a boy who she thinks is responsible for it, and she wigs him out but with her presence, and he runs. It's like, okay, cool. He got away. What a great move, you know? She attacks this guy in a penthouse but fails to kill him. So he escapes and leaves. He's got his neck all covered. They go to the car, and they have a contingency plan where they blow up his car anyway, so he's already dead. But this contingency kills his 2 kids, which really seemed like, you know, a pointless endeavor. It's like, why not just kill him in there? There's a future movie that comes up, maybe in 2021, where a certain assassin's cavalier attitude towards collateral damage causes problems for them in the future. But in this movie, it's not really thinking about it. And if I ask you, which of the 2 movies, this one, or the movie made by Marvel, was the one to take this more seriously, would you really think it would be Marvel? In this woman's quest for revenge, she literally makes everything worse, and it would have been better if she had died in that bed. And if that was the point of the movie, I would totally accept this. But at the very end, she has this person who's come into her life, and she's like, oh no, I know you were the one who sold the bombs to whatever, and I've now poisoned you, and I knew this entire thing the whole time, and this is a level of competence that absolutely nothing in the movie before this has supported, and quite frankly, screw that. This movie, it's sort of like the ending to the hour mark of Failure to Launch, where at first you're like, this looks like it's a perfect parody of romantic comedy cliches, and then when the hour mark comes around, you realize that they were serious the entire time, and they didn't know what they had. This could be the worst movie of Blake Lively's career, and I include Green Lantern in that list. Rhythm section is absolutely piteous. There's a funny thing, I saw this at my local theater where they had this, you know those damn televisions they have everywhere over the theaters now? They had an interview where they were doing it. They didn't have the sound on for the interview. But the picture they had, I guess I'll show it over here. They had a picture and they were interviewing Blake Lively for the thing, whatever. And, but it said, like, talking to Stephanie Patrick. Stephanie Patrick is the character's name, not the actress's name. It's one of these times you kind of wonder, it's like, I wonder if the people who made this video don't speak English, but whatever, you gotta make your money somehow, I guess. And now, on to the best list. The lighting is directly above me, so we're gonna just have to deal with this. And I'm over here with my toilet paper. Remember the gags about toilet paper? Wasn't that funny? I heard a story about someone who went to the Costco. This was like April 2020 or something, like a while ago. And they said that some old guy had come up with a big thing of it, you know, keep on top of it. And somebody had, like, grabbed it from him and stole it after he had purchased it. And I'm like, look, like, I don't believe in anything supernatural, or I don't believe in any God or creator. But there's also a certain point where I'm not trying to prove he's not here by doing the worst thing imaginable. And I'm like, that's just asking for God to be like, oh, you thought you had toilet paper, but I've turned it into poison ivy. So it's like, good luck with that, and good luck with your future, you know, of judgment. Perhaps I was working at a place that sold toilet paper in early 2020, and back when it was impossible to get any, and once it went like fire, I had some pillock walk in, looking at it, it's like, do you guys have Cottonelle? And I'm just like, buy the damn toilet paper! What, are you gonna stop crapping? What a stressful time that was. Number 3. What the hell am I gonna put here? I saw 14 pictures in 2020, and like most of them were bad. Hang on, let's just go through them in order. Let's look. No, we're not doing that. No, though, I mean, I guess that's nice to have a record of the last time we'll ever see T.J. Miller in a movie anymore. Look, I didn't think it was that bad. I mean, it's bad, don't get me wrong. I didn't dig this one. I liked Hugh Grant's performance, but I didn't really get what it was getting at. By the end of it, I kind of got it, but I still didn't really like it. I'm not big on gangster movies, and maybe that's just going to keep me out of Guy Ritchie forever. I did like the Aladdin thing he did. No, it's not that great, but the production on Prince Ali as like a real honest-to-God Bollywood number is pretty wild. That's pretty cool. Well, where am I on my list? That was 2019. We covered that one already. Covered that one too. Oh, that movie sucks. It probably wouldn't have even sniffed the worst list on a normal year. Maybe it would have 8 or 9 or something like that. But that movie sucks. It's another one of these movies that's obviously a remake of a Scandinavian thing, but just doesn't have the same kind of appeal. It's not as bad as like Cold Pursuit or something. I'm not giving it to Sonic. I can't do that. Release the Rat Sonic cut. If you're gonna re-release friggin' Justice League, you may as well do that. Covered that one already. I don't think Onward's all that great. I really don't. I think it's just kind of dumb. I get, it's like, things about seeing your father again, whatever. But it's also a movie about a pair of pants and a manticore that runs a restaurant. And I'm kind of like, well, I think this needed to either be sillier or needed to be more poignant or something. Maybe, I'll feel the same way when my father is nothing but a pair of pants. I'm not going on a limb for Call of the Wild. I basically liked it. I know people are complaining about the CGI dog, but you know what you can do with a CGI dog? Anything. You don't have to worry about this other nonsense we were talking about, like Milo and Otis, where they're just throwing cats off of cliffs to get shots. And it's like, thank God that's something in the past. And if that's what they need to use with the CGI animal, then so be it. Sometimes it undercuts it, like with Lyle Crocodile from this year. I know I'm breaking discontinuity, whatever, but they're trying to have a sympathetic thing or have a singing voice where the thing does like this and doesn't move like a human mouth. It's like, that's never going to work. Like, doing that was just such a terrible idea. Oh, what else did I see? Look, okay, I like Bloodshot. I'm not going to say it's the best thing I saw that year, although I guess that's the end of the list. Oh, screw it. It's Tenet. Who cares? Look, I saw it in February 2021 because I had only had one movie-seeing experience in 12 months. It was bloody Wonder Woman, which barely missed the other list. I had more to fill up on that one. Again, this is what happens when you only get the beginning of the year. So, what happens in Tenet? I don't know. I'm not really sure. All the dialogue is really weird, and it's stilted. And if you watch it at home with the subtitles, every line that John David Washington has is followed by protagonist in the subtitles because he doesn't have a name. He's just the protagonist. I'm like, he couldn't have abbreviated it to P, so it's not always filling it up, but whatever. But yeah, I think the action in this movie is really wild, especially when it's involving people doing in sort of two different worlds. I won't get into exactly what. Just see the movie if you want to. I mean, why not? I wasn't going to see it in theaters in September of 2020 when I didn't have the shot. So, like, I saw Wonder Woman, but that was kind of an anomaly. Like, I was like, what the hell, let me go out and see something. No one was around. It was the day after Christmas. Nobody was at the picture. I'm like, I don't feel unsafe doing this, so whatever. If Tenet was still there at that time, I would have saw that instead of Wonder Woman, but I guess it got pushed out or whatever. I don't know, it's September. Yeah, the action is fun. It's interestingly staged. It's, dynamic and wild and like things I haven't seen before in a movie, and that's the thing you gotta ask for in this sort of thing. My brother didn't like Tenet at all, and I think it's because he said he was put off on the wrong foot by the opening scene where they're talking about this gas attack in Ukraine, and apparently that's referencing a real historical event, which I wasn't aware of, and I'm like, okay, yeah, that does seem to be in kind of bad taste. A lot of these movies would do something like that to be like, hey, remember this thing in the real world? I'm like, God, of all the years I don't want to think about the real world, please don't bring it up this time. It's all like in, what was it called? 2016 or 17, it was Ricky and the Flash, the movie where Meryl Streep was a singer and her daughter played a real daughter in life. It was about her trying to do the thing. Stay with me on this one, I'm on a bit of a tangent. But she worked at a grocery store just, trying to make ends meet, whatever. I'm like, I don't know how you can have a house when you work at a grocery store, but whatever. I guess she also gets money from gigs. And she's talking about, it's a high-end grocery store called Total Foods. And it's like she's buying something. It's like, hey, here's $170 for this. The guy's like, gosh, that's a lot. And that's why they call it total paycheck. Come on, like, that's just taking a joke and stripping out one word and putting in another. It's like, this is from Diablo Cody. She's supposed to be a good writer, and she's just taking a joke and just changing it just enough to put it in her movie. It's like, why not just make it actually Whole Foods then? Like, come on. So, but doing this with like an actual historical atrocity in Ukraine, certainly now, would seem in bad taste. So I'm kind of with him on that. And yeah, Brennan's bad guy is incredibly stereotypical Russian badass. Which, I mean, you know, works in some things, but he's basically the same character he was playing in Jack Ryan's Shadow Recruit. But I'll say this, he's a better Trump analog than Pedro Pascal in Wonder Woman, because as far as someone who I think would literally bring down the entire world to not feel bad emotions, yeah, that sounds more like Trump than the Wishing Rock, whatever kind of thing, where he was kind of a mix of like, he's almost like Ron Popeil in that movie. He really was just kind of, he's a wheeler and dealer, but it's almost like he's the guy that we thought Trump was in like 88 or something. Maybe that was the point. I don't know. Wonder Woman 88 sucks. Do not get that wrong. I just don't want to have a top 4. Like, that would be there, but then I'm like, I can't let this get completely out of whack. At the end of the day, like, watching Tenet was a thrill. Even at home, watching it on my computer monitor, because my friggin' PS3 was dead at the time, sitting there watching it, was, you know, good. And it was the only experience I had like that all year. It was the best one of 2020 for me. I may never watch it again. If this was a normal 2020, it might not have even made the top 10, because like I didn't put Interstellar on any of my lists, I don't think. So, like, okay, let's say Top Gun came out in 2020, that would have beaten it. Not that it's not that it's a smarter movie or anything, but as far as just, you know, easy to digest action, yeah, Top Gun's great. So yeah, 2020 is a deeply compromised year with a deeply compromised top 10 list. Thank you all for watching. This is King Kool. Drive home safe. I got me some paperwork to do, so.